A lot of people like us moving to Germany think they know what life in Germany will be like once they move and have a lot of preconceived notions or expectations. They think of trying to drive on narrow European roads, being able to skip over to Paris for a weekend, German festivals filled with bratwurst and beer, just as a few examples. But how have those things we expected about life in Germany actually panned out in reality?
Hey guys, and welcome back to our channel. I am Donnie.
And I'm Aubrey.
And we are two Americans currently living in Germany and sharing all of our experiences living and traveling throughout Europe. Yes, before we moved to Germany, we had a lot of preconceived notions of what specific things living in Germany would be like. A lot of it is based on the way that we were raised versus things we had seen on TV and movies, or even from multiple short trips we had made to Germany ourselves. But after living in Germany for over a year now, we feel like we have started to scratch the surface in realizing that just because you have seen or heard things about a place doesn't mean your actual experiences will be the same. So today, we want to show you a few preconceived notions that we had and whether or not they turned out to be true or false in our video. Expectations versus reality. What is life in Germany like in actuality?
We are originally from Oklahoma, a state in the southern US, and now live in Rhineland Falls, a state in southwest Germany. We know some of these are going to be specific to where we have lived, and your experiences may be a little different from ours because of what we have been exposed to. But please leave your thoughts and perspectives in the comments below so we can all learn from each other about what life is actually like around the world versus what people may think it is like.
One of the very first things that Americans think of when they think of living in Europe is being able to take public transportation everywhere and how nobody drives in Europe. Those were our exact same thoughts before we moved to Germany, so we planned that when we arrived in Germany, we would not even buy a car. And instead, we're just going to use the trains and buses to get everywhere. When we were picking out our apartment, we tried to make sure to get one somewhat close to the local train station in our town, and we downloaded all of the public transportation apps on our phones. We also bought bikes immediately after getting here to supplement the public transportation a little and have another option to get around town.
But here's our reality. We live in a very small town that gets one train per hour, buses that take about an hour just to get to the largest city nearby, which normally only takes about 15 to 20 minutes to drive to, and nearly everybody relies on driving their own car. So after about 4 or 5 months, we broke down and bought a car as well. Now here's the thing, in large cities or even just mid-sized cities, the public transportation usually is fantastic and you can rely on public transport in Germany like millions do. And even in our small town, you could manage to function using just the public transportation, but your life just requires quite a bit of adjusting to the schedule. For us though, after our once-an-hour train failed to come more times than we can count, and we were stranded for hours in our town when we needed to get somewhere, we soon realized a car is much more important in certain parts of Germany than we thought. Of course, it is different from the US, where for the most part, in a vast majority of cities and towns, without a car, you literally have no chance of getting around, and in many cases, there aren't even once-an-hour trains or buses. They just don't exist.
So is the expectation of perfect public transportation just an expectation, but not really a reality? Yes and no. There are way more places that it just makes more sense to drive than we expected in Germany. But there are also a lot of places where you can function like that. For example, go to Berlin, and if you miss your bus, another will be right behind it within a couple of minutes. And it won't impact your life too much. We also know people who do function in our small town without a car. They just adjust their lifestyle a little to match the slower pace here, and it doesn't bother them at all. And don't even get us started on the world-class punctuality of DB trains. For us, our imaginary world of immediate public transport in every corner of Germany was a little off based on where we ended up living.
On the theme of driving, another one of the expectations that many Americans have, including us before coming to Germany, is that you will have to drive on tiny little narrow European roads that were originally just wide enough for horses in medieval times. We see videos of cars squeezing down little alleyways called streets and cars passing within inches of each other, and this was a big concern of mine. When we thought the public transportation would be our only method of transportation, I honestly was breathing a sigh of relief that I wouldn't have to risk scraping along cars as I tried to maneuver tight mazes and streets that are half the width of American super wide streets.
But here's our reality. We just did a very quick search to see if lanes are objectively more narrow in Germany compared to the US, and we found in the United States, the interstate highway standards use a 3.7 meter standard lane width. The National Association of City Transportation Officials recommends a default of 3.05 meter lanes on urban streets, but lanes as narrow as 2.7 meters to 2.9 meters can also be effective in select cases. In Germany, the Federal Bundesstraße interurban network defines a minimum of 3.5 meters for each lane for the smallest two-lane roads, and modern Autobahn divided highway with 2 lanes per direction has lanes 3.7 meters wide with an additional clearance of a half a meter on each side. With 3 lanes per direction, this becomes 3.75 meters for the rightmost lane and 3.5 meters for the other lanes. Therefore, especially on the Autobahn and the highways in the US, the road sizes are not that different if they are different at all.
Of course, you will come across some roads in Germany that are as small as 2.5 meters wide, but those are going to typically be very unfrequented roads, and it won't be an issue when you come across those, as you'll most likely not come across somebody else on it at the same time, generally speaking. One example would be our downtown area in our small little town. It is pretty tricky for 2 cars to fit past each other going through town, and normally one will pull up onto the sidewalk to let the other pass. But you can just completely avoid that and drive on the main road that loops around the old town and not even worry about that at all. So yeah, the reality is it is not that bad at all to drive, particularly in Germany, and you won't have to worry about tiny medieval roads that you don't know how to fit down a vast majority of the time.
Real quick, I wanted to take a moment and just thank you so much for watching this video. This video is not sponsored by anybody, but you guys watching it is what supports us to be able to keep bringing you these videos, and a comment, sharing this video, a like, and a subscribe helps us out more than you know. But if you have enjoyed it and want to support us in other ways, we have really great affiliate links in our description that you can check out for awesome discounts on products that we have used for years. And if you choose to use them, we do get a small kickback. We very much appreciate the help and you all interacting with us in any way you choose to that allows us to continue bringing you more content. Now, let's get back to the video. A classic stereotype of Germany in the US is that they are very eco-friendly and very strict with their trash separation. When I was in college, I did a study abroad program in Bonn where I studied sustainability, and we visited German recycling centers, garbage dumps, wind farms, and more. I also had a host family that walked me through their trash cans in their home, so I knew exactly which ones to throw my sorted trash into. Coming into Germany, we had this expectation that we would have to deal with a very complex trash system, that we were destined to fail and pay major fines for messing it up. How would we know what trash goes in what can? The different colored bags? Where do we recycle glass? Fond? What even is that word? We expected this to be a huge annoyance and headache that would take years to get used to if we ever even did.
But here's our reality. This is something we have mentioned in many of our videos, how in our town in Germany, we have a 32-page guidebook on how we must separate our trash into our 5 different trash bins. But honestly, we reference that book once in a blue moon now that we have learned it, and after a couple of months, it became second nature and very simple. The best way I can explain it is when you have a piece of trash, you just know to throw it away in the trash can. It's the exact same here. I have a piece of plastic, I just know I throw it away in our pantry bin. If I have an apple core, I just know I throw it away in the bin that's next to the sink. It's not like for every piece of trash, I'm scratching my head trying to figure out what to do, or we dump it all in one bin and have to separate it out at the end of the month. It also has been surprising to come here and find that in comparison to many European countries like Finland or Sweden, Germany really isn't considered that green. In fact, according to Nimble Finns, Germany ranks 20th in the EU on their list of green countries.
One thing we were very excited about moving to Germany for was that we were going to get to make a ton of German friends and connections. It is not that we were super excited about having German friends just simply because they are German, but we were excited to have new friends that would have different life experiences than us, a different culture, different traditions, and we could practice our German with. We wanted to be able to talk to people and get to know them so that we could get outside of our bubble of types of people and worldviews that we have grown up with. And we assumed, because we would be living in Germany and surrounded by Germans, that is who our friend group would become.
But here's our reality. Turns out Germans are actually pretty hard to meet. Now, this is not truly a problem of Germans not seeking out friendships. What we have learned through our different stages of life is that you tend to meet people inside of your similar situation and that you come into contact with. Therefore, most of the people we meet and come in contact with are also other foreigners in Germany who are new here and going through some of the same processes that we are. For example, Germans aren't going to German classes like where Donnie is spending a vast majority of his day. So he's not going to meet Germans there, but instead other new foreigners. Because they are who we are in contact with by default, we tend to find each other, leaving a large German-sized hole in our hearts, but still fulfilling our goal of meeting people with different worldviews and upbringings than us.
However, as soon as Corona is over, or just whenever groups can meet again, we want to join a Verein or a sports club because we have heard that is where adult Germans tend to meet a lot of people in their social circle. So, can you make German friends? Of course, but it just ends up that those aren't the ones that we are constantly crossing paths with daily and have the opportunity to meet at the moment. Which is fine, but we're coming for you, future German friends.
I think every American has a pretty set idea in their head of what life in Germany will be like ideally. They're dreaming of bratwurst, German festivals, beer, the Alps, and traveling easily all over Europe. We just knew moving here we would be fully enveloped in German culture and attending amazing German festivals like Oktoberfest or city festivals all the time. Also, just looking at a map of Europe, you see Germany is right in the middle of where you can fly to so many countries within a couple of hours or less and be in a completely different culture. We just knew we would be traveling every weekend to a new and exotic place to us.
But here's our reality. In many ways, that reality is actually true. When we first moved here, it was August 2019, and it seemed like there was a festival of some sort going on every single weekend in the various villages and cities around us. From tree festivals to city festivals to massive international farmers markets, we were constantly eating bratwurst and walking around local vendor stalls selling German goods. We can drive in any direction, take a train, hop on a plane, and be in any dream European destination very quickly. It is shocking to us every time we think of a new place we want to travel to that has always been so far away from us and realize we can be there in a matter of a few quick hours. This has been such a fun experience and a reality that lived up to our expectations. Of course, then the world came to a screeching halt, but we are dreaming of the day that we can get back to running around Europe and going to amazing German festivals.
Overall, there were a lot of assumptions we had before we moved to Germany about what specific things would be like, that we feel like we have a much better idea of what it is actually like now. We have learned more to not have preconceived notions before going places if possible, and also to give things time before jumping to conclusions and trying to find ways that things are different or inconvenient. We have learned to love what life is actually like in Germany for us, and we are happy to share that with you.
If you have anything that you know of that people may think about life in Germany versus what it is actually like, leave those in the comments below. If you like this video, please be sure to hit that like and subscribe button to help out our channel, as it encourages the YouTube algorithm to show our videos to others. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you in our next video.
Tschüss!
One more time.
Oh, is your brightness all the way up?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
Hello. Hello. If you all want to see why I have to do that, go to our Patreon and check out behind the scenes. You'll see why I have to go under the table.
It's not what it seems.
It's not.
In German culture and attending amazing and attending amazing German festivals.
Amazing.
Amazing. Oh gosh. Can't take the Oklahoma out of the girl.
How am I going to make that one make sense when I edit it?